Hello, Carol. Welcome to my channel about, I want to talking about a few things about the international students today. At first, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Carol Sokoloff, and I am Director of International Student Services here at Fort Hays State University. And I have been at the university for about 33 years. And most of that time, I've been working in international education, working with our international students here.
That's really nice. You have a long time career, and I think you are really good at talking to that international students. So, today I got four questions for you. I want to help the international student who's first time come here to know more about the FHSU or helping them to crossing the culture shock.
Okay.
Um, at First of all, um, I want to know is there any active or support of the new international students come here when they're first time come um, for maybe next semester or in the future? Do the office get any plan of that?
Mhm. Yes, actually, from the time a international student inquires and applies to Fort Hays, we start communicating with them in regards to documents we need for their admission, and then once they get admitted, what they need to do to get a visa, a student visa to come to the U.S., and then how to start making their plans to the U.S. So we have a pretty robust what we call pre-arrival group of emails and correspondence that we send to all of our newly admitted international students to keep them engaged with the university, to answer any questions that they might have before they come to the university, to collect documents that we need in regards to meeting immigration requirements. So we hope during that time from their admission to their actual arrival to campus that a lot of those questions they might have about what do I need to bring to campus? What is Fort Hays like? What type of classes will I take? A lot of those questions will be answered. Oftentimes, those answers are also on our website. So, if a student maybe isn't comfortable asking a question, they can certainly get referred or they can go to the website and try to find that information. But we try to keep that regular communication with the students from the time again they're in application to admitted to arriving to campus.
Thank you. Um, I know there's every students get advisors for helping them
Mhm.
for that finding the class. Um, can you tell me more about the details is that advisors do for the students?
Yeah, so our international students actually have what we would call two advisors. They have their academic advisor that will help them select their classes for their academic major. They will answer academic questions related to classes. And then they have an immigration advisor, which is what I am. And so part of what I do as an immigration advisor sometimes kind of blends over into the academic side because I try to make sure that they're enrolled in the proper number of classes to make sure they maintain their status, that they're also on track toward their graduation. So our international students, much like any student who are assigned a professional advisor within their major area, but then they have our office, the international office, as well to help advise them with things that are related to immigration that are not part of what an academic advisor's experience might be or their expertise.
That is good. That's really helpful. And my next question is like talking about the mental health problem. You know, some people are coming from the different countries, so maybe they get a different culture, they get different thinking about that. So I hear one word is like the culture shock. So how about the FHSU will do when people get a culture shock or um they're sometimes not really easy to connect to the people because of some language problem. So how can we do at that time?
So once the students arrive to campus, we have what's called a welcome week or an orientation. So we will go over material in regards to, like the students will go to the health center. We'll give them a tour, obviously officially wills, that has the physical and mental health with the health and wellness floor. So we talk a little bit about that. And that week is really designed to try to connect the students to services, to get them familiar with campus. If they're living on campus, again, the things they need to know in the resident halls. If they're off campus, obviously there's different needs that the students have. But past Welcome Week, we have a UNIV 199, which is an international orientation class or international seminar class. It's an 8-week course that over that period of time, we also talk about acculturating to the American classroom, to Kansas. We talk about the weather here. We talk about the food here. We talk about the importance of developing confidence in your language, especially if English is not your first language. So typically during that first 8 weeks, a lot of times is when culture shock will happen because, again, the environment is different, the food is different. And so students will also start getting more into their classes where maybe sometimes the language does become a challenge because they're spending so much time doing translating from English to whatever their first language is that it's very exhausting. And so students spend a lot of time doing that. They don't get a lot of sleep, which means they don't feel good. They don't want to go to class. And so then it kind of starts that cycle. So if we see that there's a student who we start having concerns about, obviously we'll have a conversation with them to say, how's everything going? What can we do to help you? Obviously, our health center is good with working with students if they're having problems with adjusting to the food, because Americans don't eat very healthy, and so a lot of our food is fried, which a lot of our students aren't used to, so they sometimes have, stomach problems, and so our health center can help get through that period of time. If it becomes a matter of, students just are getting what we would call maybe even a little depressed, we talk to them about it's okay to go and talk to someone in our counseling center about what you're feeling. Oftentimes, when we ask students, how are you doing? They're immediately going to say, oh, I'm doing okay, but they're not. So the better you get to know the student and the more they trust coming to talk to you, the more then they're willing to kind of share with you some of the challenges they're having. We also this fall are starting to kind of create a mentor program with current international students who maybe are upperclassmen who can also help engage students to get them involved. Because I really feel like, and it's one of the things I talk a lot about in classes, you have to have a balance. You have to have a balance of academics. You have to have a balance of time for you because it's mental, it's physical, it's the overall health. And if you get out of balance, it just makes it a challenge to do well academically. So sometimes we know that the students will say, oh, I don't want to bother you because I know you're busy. But they may talk to a peer who can maybe help them or to guide them as well to a service or an office on campus that can help them.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to do that. So, can you give me some suggestions about people when they're feeling getting the culture shock? What can they do for that?
I think the main thing is just to kind of listen to them. Because in the U.S. we are sometimes not good at listening. We're good at talking, but we're not good at listening. So if we sense that there is a student who is having some challenges, just sitting down and really listening to them, what are they saying? What kind of questions like, how's your sleeping? How are you adjusting to the food? Are there certain foods you miss? Because obviously, students are going to miss their foods. Is there something that Tiger Food Exchange, or there's some things that they could provide that would be, although not home, would give them more of the comfort of being able to cook their own food. So I think the main thing is if we see someone we have a concern about, not being afraid to approach them. and say, hey, I know you don't know me, but I'd like to introduce myself to you. How are you doing? How long have you been here at Fort Hays? Is there anything you don't know, or there's some, challenges you're having that maybe as a current student I could help you with? I just think, reaching out and listening is the best way to help students, because sometimes students feel, again, with their language, maybe that they can't articulate what it is. And that's okay, because, I always tell students, you're not going to get better if you don't practice. And it's okay to make mistakes, because we all have to learn at some level. And so if you make a mistake, it's fine. Or if you don't understand slang, because, a lot of Americans use a lot of slang. If there's something someone says and you don't understand, just ask them, I don't understand what that means. Could you please explain that to me? But I think it just really all goes back to communication and just, reaching out and asking someone, how are you doing? Is there something I can help you with?
Okay. My third question is there any new policy for the international students in the future?
I'm not really sure how to answer that question. Typically, there's not a lot of policies that are different for international students than they are for domestic students, regular students. The only thing that really affects our international students differently is the immigration rules. And so sometimes there are changes to immigration rules or processes, or there are some countries sometimes that have the ability to apply for more benefit just because of things that are going on in their home country. So those may be policies, so to speak, that would help our international students, or would be something they would need to know about. And if there is something on the immigration side of it, our office would let them know that. But in regards to the university policy, again, if they're like for the general education program, when it changed, obviously that affects those students who are coming in. And that would be in a role, maybe their advisor would work with them. If they have previously taken classes, they would talk to them about, this is our new gen ed program. You've taken these classes, and explain to them how those two programs could work together. But outside of that, I really can't think of any policy. I would say, like most things in any country, we have an election coming up. And depending on who our leaders are, sometimes depends on their view in regards to different populations, so to speak. So there are some administrations that are very, what I would call international friendly. And there may be some that are a little more strict when it comes to maybe students coming to the U.S. to study. So sometimes the political arena may have an effect on visas or different things like that. But I think that's true in any country. So those are things generally that we watch as well when it comes to an election period, or if there's something with immigration rules that are going to change that may affect our students.
Okay. My last question is, do we have any plan to expand enrollment for the international students in the future? Because I know this year, we get a lot of Chinese students are coming here, like more than before for a lot.
Yeah. Well, obviously the university as a whole, our mission is to educate students. And so that means we want to educate as many students as we can. Actually, we have about 200 international students on campus this fall from around 44 different countries. So my short answer is yes, we are always wanting to recruit more international students. Actually, probably maybe 10 years ago or more, we had over 400 international students on campus. So there was COVID, there was a lot of different things that happened that affected a lot of international student enrollment in the U.S. And so now I think we're seeing numbers go back up. So I foresee our numbers at Fort Hays to continue to go up. We do have partner universities in China where we're offering cross-border programs and degrees, and those partnerships bring students to our campus. And so, for example, we have partnerships in China and Senegal, and there's some other areas that we have partnerships that the potential and hope would be while they could complete their degrees online and abroad, they would want to come to campus because there's just, to have that American experience and to have the interaction with American students, to learn about American culture and just, things in general for them to make them potentially more employable in their home country. So I think that's definitely going to increase. Athletics also has increased the number of international athletes that they are recruiting to their sports team. Men's soccer has a large number of international soccer players. Basketball has 2 international players. Baseball has, I think, maybe 1 or 2 international players. Women's soccer has an international player. Tennis has international tennis athletes. Volleyball, obviously, our 2 assistant coaches are international. So athletics is also part of that recruiting and bringing international and diversity to the campus as well.
Thank you. I think we will get more international students are coming, or international staff are coming for helping FHSU be better.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your interview today. Have a good day.
You too.